Welcome, everybody. This is Matt Sweetwood with another episode of the Big Life Show. This is a show that I do. I talk about all sorts of things that are relevant to people's happiness in their life. You know, my topics in the past have been on parenting and divorce and dating and business and relationships and all sorts of things like that. And today I have a guest that I'm very, very excited about because we both play around and help people in the same space. I have with me Coach Steve Krebs. How you doing, Steve?
Thanks for having me on, Matt. I appreciate it, brother.
Yeah, no, it's good to have you. I'm really interested because we both coach a lot of men, correct? Right? We go out there, we coach men. And sometimes it's really interesting to hear, the different approaches and the different styles that exist in the coaching world. And just for those of you that don't know, coaching has become a very, very big, I don't want to say business, but it's become a very important part of our culture now. You know, life is very complicated. You're under a lot of pressure. There's a lot of things to handle. Relationships have become more complicated. And sometimes having an outside perspective, somebody who has life experience, somebody who really can help you, it can make a really big difference in your life. And I know for myself, and I'm sure, Steve, you get a chance to chime in about this, I think one of the most rewarding aspects of coaching is really seeing the improvement in the people that you're with, because it's a human game. Wouldn't you agree with that?
100%. I mean, the way that I always look at it, Matt, is that Olympic athletes have coaches. Professional athletes have coaches. And there's always going to be people that will look at the business of coaching and say, what is this? I don't understand it. This is just it's bullshit, right? It's these guys that are trying to teach other people stuff. What gives you the right to give other people advice? And the way that I compare it to is I'm just a little further down the sidewalk than some people because of the situations and the risks that I've taken. And if I can spot the pile of dog shit before they step in it, then I've done my job as a coach, right? And obviously, we can go way more in depth in the skill sets and the mindsets involved in coaching. But at the end of the day, to me, it's the most rewarding thing I've ever done in my life. And I've been a coach since I was in my early 20s. My grandfather was a coach. Actually, the Little League field in my area is named after my pop.
Okay, wow, that's cool, actually.
Yeah, I didn't have a choice, really. I mean, it was kind of one of these things that was predestined for me to lead other men. So I agree with you 100%.
And, for me, I really like that analogy of, we're a little further down the sidewalk, but I think that was said with a little bit of modesty. In some cases, we're much further down the sidewalk and, just because of the experience we've had and so on. And sometimes, that pile of crap is actually in a bag and it's hidden under a piece of cardboard, so people don't even know it's coming. And when you have some experience and you're able to do that, and you can help people avoid that, it's really rewarding. And I have, friends that I've made in the coaching business, people, when you see a difference, which you've made in another human's life and you see them in a really good place, for me, that's really the most rewarding aspect. Give me a little bit of I don't want to say your elevator pitch, but a little bit of your approach towards coaching. Like, how do you go about it? Like, when you see somebody, what do you do?
Yeah, step one inside of what we do is our coaching program, my coaching program is built on taking guys from one-dimensional to four-dimensional. And that starts with stopping the bullshit lies, right? Tell the fucking truth is one of the basis things that Warrior and Coach Steve.
Wait. I want to just reemphasize. You're talking about tell the truth to yourself. That's
to everyone.
That's right.
Most people walk around and they're just spewing bullshit all day because they feel unworthy to share their truth because they feel like they can't be themselves. So inside of what I do, I help men become four-dimensional by telling the truth and then holding them violently accountable with full contact coaching. Right? Body, being, balance, and business across the board. So I coach, I consult, I create. And inside of the game, there's nowhere to hide. We do very high accountability style coaching here. So it's not a place where I'm sitting back and just being very fluffy inside of my coaching. I am confrontational. I am in their face. And what I found with men, or men that I deal with anyway, entrepreneurial men, hard charges, is most of those guys will never be cross-checked by other guys. They'll never put themselves in places, or it's what they desire. Most of these guys are ex-athletes. They're guys that are always successful in other aspects of their lives. And then they grow up, they become boss, they start companies, and they get lost in the process, right? There are sacrifices involved in what we do as business owners. Now, I used to own brick and mortar businesses. I owned gyms. I did other things. And inside of that game, you have to sacrifice. There are sacrifices that must be made. And the problem is most of the time these guys are sacrificing time with their families. their physicality, their physical shape. Their bodies are not weaponized. They're fat, out of shape, weak, sick, tired, all of the above. They're sedating and suppressing. So inside of what we do, like, there is no room to hide because we collide.
Interesting. So you have a very physical approach to it, it sounds like. So give me an example of what you do. So if I were going to participate in one of your coaching sessions, tell me what it would look like.
I mean, these guys have to earn their way in, number one. Most of the time, they're coming through a physical event first, right? What we found inside of this game is that if men aren't broken physically, they won't emotionally open up. The average guy, and it's not the average guy, it's thousands of men, and we coach guys at the highest level. So inside of what we do, most guys will suppress or bullshit all day long. And to be good at business, guess what? You have to develop those skills sometimes to actually seduce and manipulate and do these things that we learn along the way. Now, what I've seen inside of men is that we've played this fucked up game of tag our entire existence, specifically since the Industrial Revolution, where guys feel like they cannot share their truth, so they just suppress and sedate. Right? I can't show my emotions because then I'll be viewed as a pussy and not a real man.
Right, but don't you think, wait, I'm going to interrupt you a little bit, because one of the things that I've discovered, and I write a lot about this, is that I think that one of the causes of that is that society doesn't really accept men, particularly men in power, expressing themselves like that. And so they've been taught their whole lives that they can't really do this, right? That it's not really something that men who are in power do. You know, talk about the emotional side, how they feel about their family or their wives or their lives, or they're lost, or they don't know. Don't you agree that that's really a societal thing that's happened, and it's going to continue to happen until we change our views?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's the systematic sedation of man. It's this weird game where specifically, if you look at the incident rates of suicide right now, white middle-aged males are at the highest top of the list. Right? They're the most scrutinized. No, I'm not here to play victim. This is all, we have to own this shit as men. And at the end of the day,
self-reliance is where it's all at.
Yeah, and that's what we do. That's what I do. That's what the basis of what we do is built upon, is the foundation of living by a code. Stop bullshitting. And you can't blame everyone else, right? You can't sit around pointing the fingers and play the victim.
How do you get, okay, so I get that. So how do you get them to sort of, you have to take down, you know, the ability of the human mind to tell itself something is true when it isn't is very powerful. That's even true on a mass level. There could be mass hysteria where you have, I mean, if you look in politics today, where a large percentage of the country believes one thing and the other part believes something completely else. Well, one of them is definitely, you know, not seeing it right. And so when I look at that, like, how do you break that down? Like, you go to a guy and he's sitting there saying, you know, well, I do this and this, and you know it. I mean, you know, as coaches, we know right away it's not true. How do you get him to be truthful with himself? So
we have a series of tools that we use inside of the game. And one of the main tools is what we call the stack. I'm not going to break it down for you 100% because obviously it's built for the guys that pay into the game. But
we're not asking for secrets here.
Yeah, it's a series of tools that allows them to, number one, put themselves in power every day, develop new rituals, and basically replace old addictions with new ones that are healthy for them. Right. Second piece of this is it's also built inside of their businesses. So they have a series of things weekly that they have to track inside of their business, because we build 4-dimensional men. So you can have the best body in the world, but guess what? If your relationship sucks, it affects all the other areas through the cascade effect of consequences. So we're going to sit down and go, okay, here's your story. It's not my job as a coach to answer your questions. My job is to ask you the right questions so you can find the path that suits you, because a powerful man will never allow another man to tell him what to do, ever. And we can trick ourselves into thinking as coaches that's what we're supposed to do, but it's not. A coach asks the right questions and powerful questions that allows another man to look in the magnificent mirror and see himself and see the truth to find a path. Now, we're the bumpers on the bumper bowling lane, right? As a coach, as a consultant. Now, consultants answer questions. So there's different roles that coaches have to play. And inside of this game, as we break them down physically so they can find themselves emotionally, so they can attach to what we call the voice or their intuition. And then because they're connected to themselves, then they can finally connect with their families in the right way, because they're not sedated and suppressed anymore. They've told the truth. They've let the skeletons out of their closet. So it's a process, and it's a proven process that we use, right? So it's not just, hey, let's have a one-on-one call. We also put these guys inside of small groups, because what we found is small groups allow men to actually connect to a tribe, which is what we need if we're tribal animals.
That's interesting, because you see, it's funny, I guess a little bit depends on the issues you're talking about. Because a lot of the men that I have coached, for example, let's say they're going through divorce. And when you go through divorce, there tend to be very, very personal and sensitive issues. How do you deal with that? So if a guy has a problem, let's say he has some sort of a sexual problem or a relationship problem, or he's cheated, or he's cheated on his wife, how do you get them to open up about that and be truthful about that in a group setting?
It's part of the process. So inside of the way that we do things, if you're not willing to go to that place, then you don't make it. Right? So it's a game built upon telling the truth. If you're not willing to tell the truth, then we're not for you. There's a bunch of coaches that allow you to get away with bullshit and fluff you and take your money and allow you to run down that line. And that's not me or what we do. So at the end of the day, a guy has to be ready and willing to pull himself out of the pit by getting real, raw, and relevant inside of a group of guys, or else it's never going to work. Now, guys try to hide, of course. They're going to try to hide and protect and project and posture and all the things that men like to do. But at the end of the day, if they're not ready and willing to change, there is no coach, consultant, guru that's going to make them do anything.
Absolutely. Change comes from within. A person, myself, at one point in my life, I was very overweight. And it didn't matter what anybody said to me until I was ready to do something about that and put myself in tip-top shape. It just was never going to happen. It didn't really matter. What do you think of this statement? And it's something that I say frequently, I say that physical strength is the foundation for your emotional and mental strength. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, the body is the fastest pathway to power. If you can't handle your own physicality and weaponize your body, then you're in trouble as a man. Men find power through physicality. And it's the first place that we can look and see if a guy is really on point or not. Now, I'm not talking about having an 18-pack.
Yeah, right. We're just talking about, being able to run half a mile without needing oxygen kind of thing. You need to start there. Absolutely. And for me, I found that getting through some of the most difficult times, like if I see a man who's going through divorce, I get very, very concerned when I see he's not in good physical condition, because for me, if you look at the way sports teams play, you can have two evenly matched teams play together, and the score can be even. It's the first team that tires actually ends up losing, and it's not necessarily because of the physical part, it's they make mental mistakes. And the same thing happens in life when you're physically weak, right? You agree with this, I assume.
Yeah.
You make mental mistakes.
Yeah, fatigue makes cowards of us all.
Fatigue makes cowards of us all. I may tweet that. I really like that. That's sort of.
At the end of the day, if your body can't withstand the demands placed upon it, whether it's work, whether it's sex with your wife, whether it's just physical training, walking, whatever, like at a certain point, if you're in a powerful position, people will think less of you if you were completely out of shape. Now, guess what? When I was younger, I was heavy too. So I understand the mindset that comes along with being heavy. And 9 times out of 10, when guys are heavy, they are hiding something underneath the fat. It's a way to sedate and suppress their feelings, and food is the most readily available drug on the planet. And it's the one that people are like, well, at least you're not, shooting heroin into your fucking arm.
Exactly.
But if we really look at it, obesity is an epidemic. Outside of popping pills, it's one of the things that's killing us more than anything else.
That's right. And it's an easy, like you said, it's an easy thing to do. You have to eat. It's also one of the hardest addictions to break, because drugs, everybody knows, even when you're taking it, they're not good for you, but you can very easily rationalize how good food is for you. You need to survive. It's social. It's like all of these things. And to be able to control that is very, very difficult. And you're right. I really believe that being fat, you're hiding other things. It's a fat shield to cover up what goes on. So do you think that your approach, have you coached women, and do you think your approach would actually work with women?
So I used to own gyms, which if you follow the gym business, right, it's like 90.
Yeah, my condolences, by the way. There's no tougher. Well, maybe the business I was in was tougher, but we'll call yours tough for sure.
Yeah, and we did really well. We were actually I'm from upstate New York originally. So we were in a city that was ranked top 10 worst places to own a business in Forbes magazine. No shit.
Right. All the industry disappeared out of there, right?
Yeah, pretty much. And we were really successful with it. And I coached women for a long time. And we didn't coach them this way. Obviously, I believe that when you're coaching the different genders, different. I think every person needs to be coached differently.
Absolutely, or you're not a good coach if you can't personalize your approach to some extent, of course.
So, do I think that what I do now works, and will it work with women? Yeah, I think it would. I think that the principles that it's built upon could be run across the board. But I'm not a woman, so I'm not going to coach women for the most part. at this point, I coach men because that's who I can associate with. That's who I can empathize with. We can talk about things. Otherwise, it would be theory. And one of the rules that I have inside of coaching is I'm not allowed to teach or talk about anything I haven't done. That's why you won't hear me talk about kids. I don't have kids of my own yet. So I'm not going to sit here and talk to teach somebody how they should do X, Y, and Z. And I feel like in the industry and the world in general, let's be real, there's a lot of people that talk about shit they haven't done. There's a lot of keyboard warriors. There's a lot of people that want to give you their opinion and advice on things that they've never actually experienced because it's safer on the sidelines screaming at the people in the game. It's real easy to sit on the sideline and talk about the players and how bad they're doing when you've never been on the field. Now, I'm a martial artist. So to me, I'm very sensitive about this. You go to a fight, all of a sudden everybody in the crowd's Billy Badass and wants to tell the fighter how they should be doing things, but they've never thrown a punch in their life.
Or never been hit.
Yeah,
Even more
exactly.
to the point. Even more to the point. Actually, you're taking a very, very important principle from leadership and actually running a business. So I ran a company for many, many years. And one of my credos was I would never ask an employee to do something that I didn't know how to do myself. And that's basically what it comes down to. And that really reflects around one of the things that I feel from you is a very high level of authenticity. And for me, that's what makes your brand and what you do powerful is that you're authentic. In other words, you're not just spewing crap. You're authentic. You actually believe. Like if I put you on a polygraph right now, you'd pass. You know, you actually believe what you're saying. And I think that that's very important because both of us, like you said, we try to cut through the BS and get people to be truthful with themselves. And you can't get somebody to be truthful with yourself if you're not yourself.
The people that you lead will only rise to the standard that you set in the way that you live. So if I'm not vulnerable and honest, then they won't be vulnerable and honest. If I'm not willing to put myself in situations that make me grow, expand, and show my weakness, then they won't either. And that's the problem with most human beings in general. They're not willing to put themselves in situations where they can be broken or exposed.
That's right. I mean, it's natural instinct to protect yourself. You want to share with me sort of the most humorous coaching experience you've had, something really funny that's happened in your times? Anything you got good, funny, interesting, unusual, something you think the audience would benefit from?
I mean, at the end of the day, right, for me to share that, I look at it as it'd be talking outside of school, right? We do a lot. There's a lot of funny shit that happens.
Yeah.
But personally, you know, well, I'll give you an experience of my own. Because
okay, good. I like that.
Yeah. Principles myself. So I went back through Warrior Week, which is a program that I helped run myself, right? It's a Navy SEAL style breakthrough program where we take guys and it's the basis of what I do, what we do as a unit, right? So I went back through as a student. Now, I have run this as the head coach for 18 months, and I went back through and put myself in. Within the first 2 minutes, I literally pissed my pants. So the way this works is very military style. So you can't ask to go to the bathroom. So I was sitting on the bus and I drank too much water. I wanted to be hydrated for the event. It was very physical. And I realized about 5 minutes into an hour ride that I had to go really bad. And we got off the bus and I pissed my pants.
That's okay, but you know, nobody's going to really criticize when you're going from military training. I don't really think that's gonna you know, nobody's saying anything to you. You know, you're a martial arts guy and everything. How have you found that coaching other people? And this is sort of a loaded question because I know this has helped me. I found that looking and coaching other people has really helped me in my relationships. It's allowed me to be more analytical. Now, you said you're married. How do you feel that coaching actually helps you in your own life?
So for me, I have to live at a certain standard to even command that I'm a leader of someone or anyone. And I don't want followers. I want guys that are going to run right beside me and just push hard towards what they said they wanted. So inside of that game, to me, I wouldn't say I analyze it. For me, I actually like feel more because I am coaching guys and seeing. And then obviously there's the learning that takes place. I wake up every day with an empty cup. So I look at my clients like, hey, I'm no better than anyone else. There's this weird thing that happens lately where, like, if you call yourself an entrepreneur, there's this elitism that comes with it, and it's complete bullshit. I was brought up where you're not better than anyone. I don't care if it's the homeless guy down the street or if it's the guy that's cleaning the floors or the owner of the building. I can learn from anyone. So I learn from these guys and what they're doing with their lives, and some of the guys that I've coached have been married for like 10 times longer than I have. So I'm listening. I can still coach them, but I'm learning, growing, and expanding because I'm willing to listen to them. And I believe that that's what makes people good leaders. That's what makes you a good everything in life, because you're actually allowing yourself to be a student again. That's why I went and put myself back in the mix as a student and getting the shit beat out of me, and inside of like Navy SEAL style training where it's like, okay, you cannot posture here. And this is how I learn, is I consistently put myself back in the mix. I hire my own coaches, my own consultants, because I need to be willing to do what the guys that pay me are willing to do. And if I apply it directly into my relationship, well, now all of a sudden I'm getting access to people that are way further down the sidewalk in that area of life and that have experienced problems that I haven't experienced yet. So it's like the contra cheat code to getting my shit together inside of my relationship. Plus, if I'm teaching other people, I better have my stuff together. So I'm not missing date night. I'm not missing appreciation messages. I'm not missing the little things and the little building blocks inside of my relationship that make sure it stays on fire.
Right. I think that's really great. And I think that what's really comes out to me is you have your own way of going about it, but it just shows you that from a coaching perspective, how you've become so much more self-aware. You know, that's really at the heart of it, is that you look at the way you just described that to me shows how self-aware you are in your relationship and what you're doing. You know, you're actually almost coaching yourself to some extent, you know, when you're doing that, and that's hard to do, you know, because you can lose perspective yourself. The other thing too is you actually touched on a very, very deep principle that actually comes from Judaism, which says that wise men learn more from fools than fools do from wise men. And the thing that you said, and I say this out to everybody listening to this, is that never think you're too good for anybody. You can learn from anybody. And I try to do that. I try to learn from every single person that I come across. I have two mottos in life. Every person that I touch in my life, I try to leave with them being better than before they met me, and I try to learn something from everybody. That's really my approach. What about yourself? You have sort of that kind of approach towards people in general. What do you have, like a motto or a slogan that you like to go by?
You know, I wouldn't say it's a motto or a slogan. It's just a way of living, right? I think that it's, you know, in my life, I'm a committed guy, right? Committed, consistency are two things that I pride myself on. I learned it from my grandma June, who was like, she's still one of the toughest people I know. Said
you got tough grandma? You got tough.
Man, she is tough as nails. And there's two things that she told me when I was little. I remember, and she to this day, she'll say it. She said, there's two things that you need to do to be successful in any aspect of your life. And that's be consistent and be persistent. If you can do those two things, then you're good to go. So to me, it's what I watch is in this day and age, when you walk around the street, I live in downtown San Diego, people are constantly on their phones, right? They're addicted to these things.
Yeah, right. We're sitting there. They sit there like, you know, like, you know.
Yeah. And you know what? I've been guilty of it too.
We're all guilty of it. It's addictive. Come on.
Yeah. So I think people lack connection. So to me, when I come into contact with people, I make sure that I let them know that I see them, like not just see them with my eyes, that I recognize them, that I show respect, and I show that I can connect with them. Most people I feel like that we're more connected technologically than ever before, but more disconnected person to person in a real sense.
I could not agree more with that. It's really, and I don't think that trend is going to stop. I think it's actually going to get worse and worse, particularly when you look at younger people today. I mean, I think some of them have actually lost the ability to connect. Do you find that when people go through your program, they gain some of that back when you've put them in that environment?
Of course, because we run everything on 90-day program, right? So 90-day challenges where we have very targeted outcomes across the board in their body being balanced in business. So a lot of times inside of their balance, which would be their relationships, they're going to set targets that are built around that. You know, date night inside of what we do is non-negotiable. You don't get bonus points for doing the shit that you're supposed to do as a man, right? You have to do that shit because you're investing in your relationship. You can't walk around in boxer shorts farting and expect your wife to put on lingerie. You have to put an effort in.
What?
Yeah, it doesn't work, dude. Write that one down.
That's what went wrong. I got it. Okay. I wish you had told me that 20 years ago.
It's all right, man. We'll just make sure everybody else hears it. But at the end of the day, you realize that this is how guys operate. A lot of men operate in this way. They have big expectations on the person that they're with, and then they show up very small. So to me, like taking time to go, okay, my target this 90 days is by 6 p.m., my phone gets locked up. I'm not even going to bring it out. I'm going to let everybody know that by 6 p.m. you cannot get a hold of me so that I am fully present with my family. Another piece is meditation. It's another big piece that we teach. It's the best thing that I've added to my life in the last 10 years. It allows you to create space, rejuvenation, reset. All these things that allow your mind to get space so you can come from the shit pit back to normal, and then you meditate it again and go from normal to actually being able to create inside of the space that you've created. So to me, it's like this crazy jigsaw puzzle that fits together, and the pieces aren't hard to put together. You just have to commit to doing the stuff every day. And the problem that I see in the world right now is that most people are just not committed. They're not willing to do what's required to get what they want.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of our entitlement culture now, isn't it? People just think stuff is coming to them without working at it. You know, the axiom of hard work, dedication, perseverance, those values will always be there no matter how many devices you have like this, and no matter what. If you want to be successful, you have to really, really work at it. If I wanted to participate in your coaching program, what do I do?
So most people just go to CoachSteve.com. It's the simplest website URL of all time. That one, or obviously, if you're a guy that really feels like you need your ass kicked, right? Like you feel lost, there's also a program called Wake Up Warrior. So you go to wakeupwarrior.com. To work with me personally, it's CoachSteve.com. And then I also have a podcast that is actually just a passion project called theeloquentsavage.com, which is just based in MMA, jiu-jitsu, business, kind of like the Joe Rogan podcast. It's just something I'm doing for fun as a passion project.
Well, it's part of what I call your personal brand. I mean, you have you're not just the two-dimensional human being. You're not just Coach Steve and husband Steve. You know, you have other aspects. And that actually, I find that sharing those things is a release. I mean, I do lots of stuff like that. I write on business. I write on parenting, and I write, and I do photography, and I work out, and you talk about all of those things. It's like it's your own release to share that stuff, because we're sharers. Ultimately, that's what it comes down to, right? We get our enjoyment out of sharing and helping, and that's really the nature of the coaching business and really helping people. That's what it's about. Anything you want to tell my viewers out there on the way out, giving you the last word?
Well, I think that obviously if this is a podcast for men, right, there's just an idea that I want to share with you guys really quickly inside of this game that allowed me to shift and gave myself permission, which is a word that I talk a lot about, to be more vulnerable. I feel like that's the one piece that I see specifically inside of the guys that I coach. I've coached probably 400 or 500 guys in the last 2-3 years, is the inability to be vulnerable. And I figured out this kind of like this process, and it's all based in pain, right? We all have pain. We can pretend it's not there. We can compare our pain to other people's pain and pretend that, it's not that bad. At least I'm not that guy. And the problem with that is then you downplay your own pain, and then you'll never actually face it and move forward inside of it. So there's a 4-step thing that I realized that I was doing before I made this shift, and it's something I still have to work on today. Nobody's perfect. So this idea of pain, and what I would do is I would protect. So I would build these little walls around my heart and stiff arm people outside of this game of feeling love and allowing love into my life. So I'll protect. Now what happened is this protection moved into projection. So I would protect and then project onto other people. So I would take that pain and that posturing as a man, this is how I'm supposed to be, and I would project it on other people. So I would get triggered. I would talk shit on people. I would get angry at people. Last piece of this the third piece is posturing. So then I would posture because I was projecting. I was in pain. I would posture up like an ape, pound my chest, and hurt other people in the process. And then the last piece of this was actually punish. I would take the people that I actually love, and I would gaslight them, right? I would set them up for failure in certain areas because I wanted to punish other people, and then the cycle would start over. So I just wanted to share that with you guys because it's something that I've been working on and sharing over the past probably month or two, and it came to me actually inside of a meditation. And then I went back through Warrior Week as a student, and all this stuff kind of like opened up for me. So I think as men, we have to allow ourselves to admit that we're in pain, and pain shared is pain divided. So if you feel pain, being able to share it with a group of like-minded people that actually support you where you feel safe is going to release you from the self-imposed prison that you've put yourself in over these years. That's all I got to say about that.
Very deep. I really like that. And I really like the fact that you're talking about men talking about their pain, because to me, that's really where it's at. Men are not so good at doing that. And if you can at least start that conversation, you're headed in the right direction. Look, I want to thank you for being on today. This is a big life show, and you certainly are helping people have a big life and really making a difference out there. So a lot of credit to you. If you want to find Coach Steve, you can find him at CoachSteve.com. I have that right?
Yep, you got it.
The easiest URL ever, according to you, Coach Steve, right? Go for it. Thanks again for having me on, and best of luck.
Thanks, Matt. I appreciate it, brother. Have a great day.